Well, ladies and gentlemen, Ahsoka has come and gone like a fart in the wind, and it's a TV show that a lot of people are going to forget about. Just like everything else that has come out from Disney Star Wars, it is all very forgettable stuff. Now, we're talking about Ahsoka because it is really telling just how bad a show is when you experience a massive drop off like Ahsoka did. Like Rings of Power experienced a drop off so bad that over 70% of people never finished the TV show. That is really bad. Now, Ahsoka, we have a headline here from Bounding Into Comics that says Ahsoka finale viewership data claims it has lost nearly a third of its audience and down over 40% compared to the Mandalorian season 3 finale. Now, the Mandalorian season 3 finale was already bad as it is. Mandalorian season 3 did not do nowhere near as good as the first two seasons for many different reasons. And considering that Ahsoka is doing even worse than that, over 40%, that is crazy. So let's get into the article, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, consider subscribing. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm Shadow Ban as hell. And like the video to push us out into the YouTube algorithm. It says newly released viewership data for Dave Filoni's Ahsoka series reveals that the show lost nearly a third of its audience since its premiere episode. Samba TV recently shared that the series finale for Ahsoka only drew in 863,000 US households over a 6-day period following its release. The company posted on X the finale of Ahsoka landed on Disney Plus last week to 863,000 US households watching. Older millennials tuned in at the highest rate to watch whether Thrawn made it off Paradia. This is down 337,000 US households compared to the show's premiere viewership data from Samba TV. The company reported that the show brought in 1.2 million US households when the first episode premiered back in August. That's a decline of nearly a third of its audience, specifically 28%. Now, one thing to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, is that this is pretty normal, okay? This is, even though we want to make fun of Disney, we want to make fun of Ahsoka, this is pretty normal to experience a drop, but it is not normal to experience a drop of this magnitude. It's also the fact that YouTubers were reviewing the show, and a lot of people go to YouTubers to watch the TV shows, okay? They want to watch people's reviews of the show more than watching the show itself. They think it's more entertaining. But the thing is, not only do YouTubers watch the first episode, of course, but people who genuinely wanted to maybe give it a shot, they're going to watch the first episode and maybe the second episode, and they're going to realize that it is the woke nonsense that they thought it was, and then they're going to check out. That's just usually what happens, and they end up watching YouTubers after that fact. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case here as well. It says the Ahsoka finale viewership is also significantly down from the Mandalorian Season 3 finale. According to Samba TV, the Mandalorian Season 3 concluded with 1.4 million US households tuning in to watch its first 5 days on Disney+. That's a decline of over 500,000 households. More specifically, it's a loss of 537,000 households. That's a decline of 38%. Not only did Ahsoka seemingly lose a third of its viewership from its premiere to its finale and perform significantly worse compared to The Mandalorian Season 3, but analyst Valiant Renegade also pointed to Samba TV's assertion that the show's core audience was older millennials. Well, see, here's the problem. They don't really know who their audience is anymore. Or I should say they do know who their audience is, but they're not trying to actually make the TV shows for their audience. They're making the TV shows for themselves. That's the problem. They have writers that are self-inserting themselves into this TV show and trying to make this into the woke nonsense that they love to watch themselves, but they're not actually trying to reach out to the audiences that they know that they have. They know that a lot of people who are into Star Wars are older, but they rather write these TV shows for either young people or hardcore feminazi feminists. That's what they're trying to write these shows for, and that's what ends up being the problem. It says he explained why this data point is significant. Older millennials tuned in at the highest rate that should have some alarm bells going off. Those older millennials they are referring to are the ones that grew up with the prequel trilogies. Guys like me, the Gen Xers, were still into the prequels when they came out, but we were largely in our 20s at that point. Our experience growing up was far more closely tied to George Lucas' original trilogy, as well as the merchandise purchases that we made by the billions. But the problem is that that's where all the younger demographic, where are they? Disney doesn't seem to be pulling them in. That means their audience is not only shrinking, but seeming to be aging out, he asserted. Well, see, that's the problem. They try to go after the younger audience by doing things that a lot of people grow out of, right? So all this identity politic nonsense, a lot of people do grow out of it. Yeah, there are some people that end up sticking with it and they end up voting liberal in the future, but ultimately there are a lot of people that grow out of that nonsense. And what used to mean a lot to people don't mean so much when they get older, when they start paying taxes. And you know what I mean? Like, people don't care, man. They don't want to see this identity politic nonsense. They want to to watch TV shows and movies to escape from real life. And when you're constantly reminding them about real life in their escapism, it starts to get a little bit annoying. It starts to get to a point where nobody wants to really give you the time of day or give you the viewership anymore. And that's where Disney's at. Disney has decided to make entertainment that's based in modern day politics, and they're going to receive the benefit and the backlash of it depending on what they do. It says the true power and wealth of Star Wars always lay in the fact that it would continue to cross generational lines. He stated, "You had everybody back from older Americans that were born during the Great Depression to the baby boomers to the Gen Xers, and yes, even the millennials got into Star Wars, which drove them to the prequels, although they weren't really adults yet. But if we're now to believe Samba TV's measurement system here, then that means that generations behind the millennials, those in maybe Gen Z, well, they're not showing up. And if that's true, that means that Disney has broken the chain of Star Wars from generation to generation," Valiant Renegade said. And I really do think that's the case. I've been saying this time and time again. The only reason why Star Wars is even doing any sort of business right now is because it does have that nostalgia factor. It does have the older people who grew up on Star Wars who never want to give it up. They're going to keep watching it no matter what gets put out because they just want more new Star Wars. They will take whatever they get, even if it's bad. They'll complain about it, but they'll still watch it, so it doesn't matter. That's the people keeping it alive. It's not new people. It's not new viewers. It's definitely not younger viewers. It's the people who have nostalgia for old school Star Wars, and they're hoping that it eventually goes back to what it was, and they'll just keep watching the stuff that comes out until eventually it does go back to what it was, even though I don't think it's ever going to happen, but they have it in their hearts that it's going to happen, so they're going to keep watching. That's the people who are supporting Star Wars currently today. It says, but even with that, we're the Gen Xers. They're obviously not watching this show. They're the ones like me and so many others in my generation that feel like Disney has just abandoned us altogether. There's nothing out here from Disney Star Wars that is appealing to us, and we're the generation that made Star Wars the biggest multi-billion intellectual property that ever was, he opined. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not surprised of the drop from Ahsoka. Okay, Ahsoka is an overall pretty bad show. All right, I'm not going to say it's the worst show in existence. From what I've been seeing, a lot of people say it's mid at best, but a lot of people are also saying it's basically subpar, below average. So I think that it's basically, if I were to rate it, it's probably around like a 3 or a 4. I think that's safe to say, but still, it's not enough to carry the name of Star Wars. It just isn't. And then when you start preaching to people with identity politics and you start showing them this feminazi nonsense that everybody just is sick of seeing, like, you know that Star Wars main demographic is men. You know that. I know they know that, and I know you guys watching this video knows that. So they constantly make these TV shows like Ahsoka and the Acolyte that's coming up right now. They're making them into these feminazi movies or TV shows, and nobody wants to see it because the primary demographic is men. So why would they want to be preached to about how bad they are? Why would they want to be preached to about how, they're the patriarchy? Like, why would they want that? They don't want that. They want to escape into Star Wars, and they're not going to be able to escape when they feel like they have a nagging wife inserted into the TV show telling them about the patriarchy. Like, that's not something that people want to see when it comes to Star Wars. So this is the biggest problem that Star Wars is facing, and they're going to keep reducing viewership like this. I guarantee you, in the next show that comes out, the Acolyte's probably going to be it. It's going to have even less viewership than Ahsoka because of what Ahsoka did, and it's just a domino effect, and it's going to keep going down and down and down the rabbit hole until eventually there's nothing left. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.